Forrest Gump is full of a bunch of historic and pop culture references, but it's not always easy to tell if what we're seeing actually happened in the real world, kinda sorta happened in the real world, or never happened at all and is totally made up. Where does actual history stop and fictional movie begin? Where's the line between truth and story? That's what we're here to settle. Lace up your shoes as we break down 10 of the biggest Forrest Gump truths and lies. Number 1. Forrest Gump himself. First, the biggie and the most basic question, was Forrest Gump a real person?
People call me Forrest Gump.
Survey says, not so much. Gump is made up. No such person ever existed. This isn't a documentary or a life biography or anything like that. It's just a movie. Or is it? Well, yeah, it's still just a movie, but a lot of the things Gump sees, does, and says in this movie are based on actual events and real people and stuff that happened in the real world. Like number 2, stand in the schoolhouse door. Did the governor of Alabama try to stop black students from entering the University of Alabama?
And they want to go to school with us.
With us?
True story. Gump wasn't there, of course, but Alabama was the last state university in the country that only allowed whites. The governor was against integration and blocked the doorway as part of a campaign promise. He finally stepped aside after an executive order from President Kennedy. And with that, students James Hood and Vivian Malone entered the university. And no, she didn't drop a book on her way in.
Ma'am, drop your book.
Number 3, Vietnam and Medal of Honor. Gump's service in Vietnam is based in part on the real-life story of Sammy Davis, Sammy L. Davis. It was Private Davis's squad that came under heavy fire, Davis who moved injured soldiers to safety at great risk to himself, and Davis who was seriously injured in the back and butt. For these and other heroic acts, Davis received the Medal of Honor from President Lyndon Johnson. In fact, footage from Davis's ceremony is used with Gump's head pasted on top. As far as mooning the president goes, Gump might have gotten away with it, but it's not something Davis ever tried. Number 4, anti-war rally. What about the big hippie get-together at the Lincoln Memorial?
Follow me! Come on!
There really was a huge anti-war rally here in 1967, complete with a very vocal activist fella named Abbie Hoffman who wasn't afraid to use the F-word. There's even reports that the PA system cut out as a soldier was about to share his experience in Vietnam. But in really sad news for the lovers and dreamers out there, the romantic hug in the reflecting pool isn't based on an actual historic hug. It didn't happen. But don't let that stop you from reenacting it. Number 5, Ping-pong Diplomacy. Gump is a quick study of ping pong and ends up playing in China. This is a nod to ping-pong diplomacy, which really happened. For decades, the US and China were in a Cold War with no economic or diplomatic relations. The countries didn't like or trust each other. Well, along comes the World Table Tennis Championships held in Japan in 1971. After practice one day, an American misses his team bus. To the surprise of lots of people, he's invited to ride with Team China on their bus. He meets one of China's best players, the two exchange gifts, and they end up becoming friends in spite of their country's long-standing mutual distrust. This friendship sparks a thaw in Cold War tensions. Days later, the team is invited to travel to China, where they become the first American delegation to set foot in Beijing in 30 years. Not too shabby for a little old sport. Number 6, John Lennon's Imagine. Was Lennon inspired to write his hit single Imagine during a conversation he had on a late-night talk show appearance? It's a fun thought, but it didn't happen this way. The singer, songwriter, and co-founder of the Beatles appeared on the Dick Cavett Show not with Gump, but alongside his wife, Yoko Ono. He'd written and recorded Imagine months before this TV show was taped, and he even plays the finished recording for the studio audience. Imagine went on to be his best-selling single.
For no particular reason at all, somebody shot him.
Number 7, Watergate Scandal. Gump notices some suspicious activity and makes a phone call, and next thing we know, President Richard Nixon resigns. So what's going on here? It's all part of the Watergate Scandal. Across the way from Gump's hotel room, in the real world, was the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee. Police found 5 guys who'd broken in to spy on, Democrats. Turns out they had ties to the Republican Party and possibly to President Richard Nixon himself. An investigation followed and lots of folks got in big trouble, including Nixon, who took part in a cover-up and had likely ordered the whole break-in operation. Faced with impeachment, Nixon decided to step down.
I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
Number 8, Apple stock. Lieutenant Dan and Gump get rich when they buy stock in Apple Computers.
In some kind of fruit company?
Just how rich would they be? We can't say exactly because the movie doesn't say much, but it's not going to stop us from guessing. Before we jump in, let's get the dates straight. The letter says 1975, but Apple Computers didn't exist until the next year, and it didn't seek public funding until 78, so we'll start here. How much money would Gump and Dan have to invest? After shrimping for a year, plus the market value of shrimp, minus the cost of living, we'll say they had a nice round $100,000 to invest. Drop this into Apple Computers in 1978, and it'd grow to be worth about $3 million when Forrest Gump premieres in 1994. It's not crazy rich even back then, but it's certainly enough to be able to spend your days mowing lawns.
I cut that grass for free.
Number 9. Running. Are Gump's years as a runner based on an event or person? Not really. Lots of people have run across America, even though it's unusual to keep running back and forth.
Might as well turn around. Just keep on going.
But one of Gump's quotes in the movie comes almost exactly from a real-life runner. As a teenager, Louise Figueroa set a record for the fastest run across the United States. He described his run this way.
When I got tired, I slept. When I got hungry, I ate. When I had to go, I went.
As for Gump's run itself, could it be done? Well, it takes Gump about 3 years to cover somewhere around 19,000 miles. That works out to be about 16 miles a day every single day. It's aggressive, but with a good support team, you could probably pull it off, especially if you were wearing a sweet pair of Nike kicks. Number 10, smiley face logo. Did a muddy face wipe on a t-shirt lead to one of the most popular images of all time? Cool story, but it didn't happen this way. The smiley was designed in the 60s by a guy named Harvey Ball, for which he was paid $45. It first appeared on buttons given out to employees to help boost morale. The smiley would appear on millions of buttons, toys, t-shirts, mugs, posters, and more. In spite of this success, which could have made Ball a millionaire, he decided not to apply for a trademark, saying, "Hey, I can only eat one steak at a time." That's it for our top 10 Forrest Gump truths and lies.
That's all I have to say about that.
There's a lot of history here, and even though it's a bit jumbled up from what really happened, these references to reality are a big part of what makes this movie so magical and what makes Gump such a fun character to watch again and again. What did you think of our review? What's your favorite Forrest Gump quote? What movie should we break down next? For more great videos just like this one, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and remember,
I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is.
Shrimp soup, shrimp stew, shrimp salad.
Jenny and me was like peas and carrots. You got a daddy named Forrest too? Lieutenant Dan, ice cream. Sometimes I guess there just aren't enough rocks. Pretty tired. Think I'll go home now.